Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Venus and today we are doing a bookshelf tour. They are my favorite videos to watch by booktubers. I love seeing what's on other people's bookshelves. I'm so nosy. I like to see the knickknacks they have on their bookshelves. I love to hear them talk about their favorite books. So today I'm going to be doing that very thing. So get comfy, grab a beverage of choice. Today it's coffee, but you can get whatever you'd like. Nothing, wine, water, coffee, tea, whatever, but come back and meet me here and let's go check out my bookshelves. Okay, so yes, I have the Billy bookcases from IKEA. I know when I upgrade my home, I'm gonna get something fancy, but for now, these are serving me well. So before we start, let's talk about how I organize my shelves. It's just by whatever makes sense in my brain. It's probably not going to make sense to a lot of you, but so they're kind of in a weird, they're just kind of organized weirdly, but I will explain as we go through. So part of the reason I was super excited to do this bookshelf tour is to kind of document like where my bookshelf started and how they evolve over time, because I've already kind of looked at these just by getting this video ready, and I've seen some books that I'm probably going to unhaul. My book buying habits have significantly changed as well. I try to no longer allow booktube and bookstagram influence the books that I buy, so I try to be a little bit more intentional about what I'm buying, making good use of thrift stores and used books. So yes, I am super excited to kind of watch and see how my bookshelves evolve. So I want to kind of show you the beginning of my Stephen King collection. It's very small. Gosh, I've watched some people's videos that are like 45 minutes, just Stephen King books that they own. That's insane. I don't think it'll ever get that big. I really like the older editions, so that's kind of what I've started to collect so far. So we'll go through that. Some books on my shelves that are my favorites, books that I plan to read. Not going to go through every single book on my shelf. Not going to pull them out because that would take forever, even though I think last time I counted I have about close to 250 books, but I'm not going to like pick out each one. No, I'm not going to bore you. But I am going to show some of my favorites and show what's on the top shelves because you can't really see them. So let's go take a look at my bookshelf. Start from top to bottom. Right here is a pillow that a good friend of mine made for me many years ago with a play on some Journey lyrics. We have Legos my daughter wanted for Christmas, and of course she had nowhere to store them, so they ended up on my bookshelf. And that is pumpkin juice that a grumpy doctor that I used to work with actually bought me when he went to Universal Studios, and I kept it because it was very sweet of him. I was not expecting that at all. This sign I got from Home Goods during a Halloween haul. I have a bunch of Funkos that my kids tend to get me for Christmas. I have no idea what to do with them. Are they supposed to stay in the box? Do you take them out of the box? I don't know, but that's where they are. I love this Game of Thrones book. It is gorgeous. I'm going to open it up and show you guys what it looks like. I just wanted to give a closer look at this book. It's so pretty. The illustration is amazing in this book. Beyond the Wall. So pretty. Harry Potter first editions. And these are, I actually really loved Mortal Instruments. I've not read the Infernal Devices yet. I heard that it's really good, so I'm actually really excited to read those because I did enjoy Mortal Instruments quite a lot. Very entertaining. I'm a nurse, so people tend to buy me these little angel figurines, so I have a lot of them. Moving over here, this is my Brandon Sanderson collection. I love his books that I've read so far. They've all been 4 out of 5 stars. My favorite Brandon Sanderson book is Elantris. I've enjoyed it. Out of the books that I've read so far, it is my absolute favorite. I loved the world in this book so much. It's not saying much because, like I said, I do love all of his books, but that has been my favorite so far. And then, so coming up to a possible unhaul, I tried to read the first Wheel of Time. I really did try, and it was incredibly boring to me. So I'm gonna give it a go again and see how it goes. But if not, I will be unhauling those. Song of Ice and Fire series is one of my all-time favorite fantasy series. I adore every single one of these books and the show. We won't speak about the ending, but I do love, love, love Song of Ice and Fire, and of course eagerly awaiting the next book in the series, or last book, or if we ever get one. It's still a fantastic series. This is my little Stephen King collection. It's very small, but I'm loving it so far. I'm just gonna pull out a couple of my favorites. I just thrifted this book. I'm super excited to have a copy of it. I love this book so much when it came out, and the movie when it came out. I'm gonna date myself right now, but I'm a huge fan, or was a huge fan, of New Kids on the Block back in the day. And if you've seen this movie, you know that Donnie Wahlberg was in it, and that was one of his first movies. So I'm a huge fan for many reasons. I also thrifted these 2 editions of Stephen King's Christine and Salem's Lot. I love these. I think this is the original edition that I read many years ago when I was very, very young. Pretty sure that it was this version. I love this book. I adore this copy of Salem's Lot. It's kind of been through some things. Oops. It has tape all on it, but I love it. I love it so much. It's like from the 70s, this edition. So yeah, I definitely like I like finding old editions of his books. Alright, so this whole shelf is pretty much, I guess, like horror and thrillers. Another favorite of mine that I've read so far is this one. I love this. Oh no, sorry, not that one. I mean, I did like that one, but my favorite is this one. I love this book so much. There is a scene in the beginning of this book, and it really has nothing to do with the plot. I think just the way the author wrote it. It's something that the main character's child does. I can't remember what it is, if he hits his head on a door or something like that. And the way that Grady Hendrix wrote that part, I laughed with tears in my eyes for like 10 minutes. My family was looking at me like I was crazy. So if you haven't read this is a fantastic horror book. I highly recommend it. It's funny, but it also has some commentary about how women were treated in the 90s and how African Americans were treated, still are. So it was actually a really good, surprising book. It's totally different from any other vampire book that I've ever read. This vampire is not giving off any sexy vibes. He is actually very creepy. So I highly recommend this book. Did finish this book. This is brand new, came out this month, and I will go into detail about it, but it was weird. That's all I'll say. This shelf is mostly fantasy. I think the Red Rising series right here, I think that's considered science fiction. I'd have to double check that, but it's just where I stuck it on my shelf. This is my very first live plant that I've ever owned. She's hanging in there. I named her Khaleesi. She's got some brown spots. We're working on that. She's gonna get repotted soon. That one. This shelf is more fantasy. I have absolutely fallen in love with Joe Abercrombie and his writing. He writes grimdark fantasy. I've read the First Law trilogy and looking forward to jumping into the standalones that are next, and then the Age of Madness, which is his next trilogy. And they are all in the First Law kind of world, so I love it. Love his books. Highly recommend them. This shelf is a combination of fantasy and science fiction because the Expanse series is science fiction space opera series with a lot of books. I can't remember. I want to say 8 or 9. I think the very last one just came out recently. I'm sorry, they're doing like building or something outside. So if you hear that noise, I apologize. But I really enjoyed it. I know it's kind of, it gets mixed reviews, but I loved it. I love space operas, so as long as you keep me entertained and it's a good storyline and it's in space, I'm sold. And these covers are so pretty. I love this edition of Dune so much. It's so pretty. And these blue edges, I love it. But if you can't tell, I actually really prefer paperback. When I'm reading my books, it's just easier. So I did get this edition. Would help if so I did get this edition to actually physically read, but I really wanted to have this one on my shelf as well. This one is kind of, I don't know. This shelf's a little weird. I've got some vampire books. This is brand new. I have not read this yet, but I'm excited to read this. This is actually romance vampire books. I did enjoy them. This is another one. Then you have Michael Crichton thrown in there, Jurassic Park, and I've shown this edition before, but it's so pretty. I love it. It's so pretty. All right, so I've mentioned this. I can't remember in which video I've mentioned this, but Robin Hobb. I have not read any of her books yet. I'm very excited to read them. I really, really wanted the middle book edition, this one right here. I wanted this version of all of these books. These are all thrifted from an online bookstore overseas. And these are the versions that I got. They don't freaking match, not even 2 of them. I didn't bother returning them because it took so long for them to come in the mail, but this drives me absolutely insane. But I am gonna try to get this copy of the other 2 books because what the heck. This is some paranormal fantasy here with Jim Butcher, Dresden Files. Highly recommend that. These are just Harry Potter mugs that I've collected. A lot of them were from Owl Crates when I used to subscribe to that monthly book subscription, which I don't anymore. But yeah, that's what those are. I don't even know. This shelf is just a mixture of things. We've got classics over here with Jane Austen. I love these copies of these Jane Austen books. They're so pretty, giving me all the Twilight vibes. I love them. How cool are these 2 books? I thought that was the coolest thing. Let's ignore the hideous stickers that are disrespecting the cover of Fable, but yeah, so pretty. I need to read Namesake. It's actually on my physical TBR list for this year, so I'll be reading it soon. I'll probably have to reread Fable, but wonderful young adult. I guess it's fantasy, kind of pirate book. I really enjoyed the first one very much, so I can't wait to read the second one. So yeah, the shelf is kind of a mix of things because the Holly Jackson books are mystery, young adult mystery. Then we have young adult fantasy with an Ember in the Ashes series. This is my book of the month shelf. And you got to be careful with your book of the month book selection because it can completely overtake your bookshelf. And I have learned to be very selective about the books that I choose because I have chosen books that I actually had no intention of reading. So I've skipped quite a few months recently. But March was a good month. I got like 3 books in March. This is the bottom shelf. So I used to have all of my nonfiction books on my bookshelf. I actually took them all off and put them on my entertainment center in my living room to make more room. So I've got some space to work with right here. I also might be unhauling this series. If you've read it, I guess the whole series really is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and A Curse So Dark and Lonely was amazing. It is I'm totally drawing a blank on the type of fantasy it is, but it's when parts of it take place in current time, or parts of it takes place in our world and then they jump to another world. Oh my God, I can't think of what it's called, but the first book was fantastic. I loved it, and then the next 2 books just sucked. I hated them so much. We won't talk about these. I vlogged these. Great, not so much. This is my TBR shelf. That's what we're calling it. Yeah. Some of these I talked about, I think, in my March TBR and my March book haul, or February book haul. Yeah, and then on the end is kind of the middle grade section of my bookshelf. And then there's a romance next to it. I don't know. See, I told you. It just made sense in my brain when I stuck them up there. Quick little note about this book. I was so excited to read this book. I love Tessa Bailey. You'll notice I actually don't own very many romance books on my shelves because I typically read them on Kindle Unlimited. I don't usually buy them because I don't really reread romance books. It's very rare that I would do that, so that's why I don't really purchase them. But I really was excited to get this book, and I have DNF'd it for now because it was super predictable, and I think I pretty much know the story without reading it, so we'll see. I don't know. I might finish it, I'm not sure. This shelf is another kind of hodgepodge. It's romance. It has some just fiction. I don't know. I guess most of these are romance. No, Are You Sleeping is a mystery. I just thrifted all of these Bertrice Small books. She was the author that got me into historical romance books. I absolutely loved her books. I remember just curling up in my bed in high school and just devouring her books. So I plan on doing a reread to see if they kind of hold true to my love of her writing. So we'll see. I will keep you guys updated. This book I really wanted to mention. I've never heard anyone talk about it. I actually received it in like a book, I don't know, an adult book club subscription that I subscribed to for probably like 2 or 3 months. And this book came and I just sat down and was like, well, let me just read the first page and, see if I like this writer's writing style. And I sat and read the entire book in one sitting. It was so beautiful. It's a romance book. It's not a rom-com. It's just a beautiful romance book. The main character, it is told from the male point of view, and he's just has such a melancholy vibe to him. Very sad individual, and then he falls in love with, I do remember the female lead, her name's October, and she's like this artist and really just eccentric, and he falls in love with her, and it's their story, and there's like this twist in it. This book was just beautiful. If you're looking for a romance book to read that's not your typical, rom-com romance, then I highly, highly recommend it. There's so many quotable sections in this book. The author has just a beautiful writing style, so I really, really recommend this book. And this is the bottom shelf, another kind of mix of all kinds of genres here. We've got historical romance over there on the end, a mystery YA adult with the Inheritance Games, the Lunar Chronicles, which I haven't read yet, but I'm super excited to read those. Yeah. Another possible unhaul, Shadow and Bone series. I read the first book and I was a little bored. I heard Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, I can't remember what that series is called, heard that those are much better, so I'm actually looking forward to reading those. I will try to finish the series because they are quick reads, but I didn't enjoy the first one that much, but we'll see. And that's all I got. That's it. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Did you see any books on the shelves that inspired you to try to read something new? Are these things that you have on your shelves? Are there things that you think I would love to add to my edition? I would love to hear from you. Thank you again for hanging out with me. Hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you again soon. See ya.